what can we do about this stuff? There's a lot going on. We talked about a lot of things. What are some things that you can do? And I brought, for anyone who wants one, a little pamphlet here. And it was created in Milwaukee, so a couple of the things reference Milwaukee type things. You've got something similar in this area. But this is Simple Solutions for Great Lakes Health. And it goes in depth to a lot of these things, but reducing your plastic use. Simple things like taking a water bottle instead of getting bottled water. Using less fertilizer on your lawns. One of the things that caused those dead zones in Green Bay and some other areas, lots of nutrients coming in there. It's mainly farming runoff, but nutrients and extra nutrients and stuff can cause issues in the water. Native plants really help that a lot, and they tend to grow a lot easier. So you can try and use more native plants. Clean up your pet waste. That is also causes problems in the waterways. Or like I mentioned before, disposing of water, or of medicine. Lines for the Great Lakes is right here in the Chicago area. Not that there isn't other places, but you can do cleanups with them. There are different river groups that are doing cleanups, and friends of different local rivers, so you can check out those places. Work to provide rain barrels and rain gardens. Those are great ways to help deal with the water where it lands. In the Milwaukee area, our local wastewater reclamation facility, Jones Island, is pretty cutting edge on what's going on and how to best deal with water. They clean, so regulations by the government is like they have to clean 80% of the water or something like that. They are regularly 85–90% of the water is getting clean. Now, their main focus, they've got their system as well as they can. They focus now on how to have people help them by treating the water some at their local spot. Instead of having that water go through a storm system or a storm drain or those types of things, try to slow it down a little bit and get it filtered through rain barrels or rain gardens. You guys the environmental group is already doing some of this, reaching out to local leaders, trying to talk about how can we help and do different work on things. And then coming up really soon, vote. Check and see what the people you're voting for, what do they think about what's going on in the environment? What are they doing to help your waterways? That's your chance, between our dollars on what we choose to buy and what we vote for, that can make a really big change. So those are the types of things we can do. We kind of need to remember that the Great Lakes are a closed system. We're not getting water from, rainwater is really what's coming in and filtering it, right? So we're not getting it from an ocean or something else. It's a closed system. So if we dump in it today, we're gonna drink it tomorrow. Water is 60% of your body, 80% of your blood, and 70% of your brain. So if you are around here, you are Lake Michigan. So think about that as you're putting something in the water. So that's my contact information. You can certainly reach out just if you have other questions if we don't end up answering them tonight. I do talks in a lot of different places, virtual ones. We do tours of our facility. So if you guys ever wanted to get a group of people together to come up, or the third Thursday of the month at 12:30, I also do public tours, so anybody can kind of sign up for that. But there's a lot of opportunities to get involved in what's going on. But you don't have to come all the way up to me. There's stuff going on around here that you can also get involved in, I'm sure. All right? So, Do you have any questions? Yes?
Back in the 70s and 80s, there was a big concern about mercury levels in fish. With the Clean Water Act, has that changed? Has it gotten better?
It has gotten somewhat better. One of our researchers has done a lot of work on what really has been the effect on the aquatic life of that mercury. So he did through a couple different projects, like how he fed the fish, like feeding them one side, then the other side, and how they went through a maze. Yeah, you get fish, go through maze too. He found that fish whose mothers or grandmothers or multiple generations down were exposed to methyl mercury in their water, they had learning disabilities. So they couldn't figure out how to find the food or get through the maze. That is interesting to find out about what the aquatic life is happening, but then other researchers can take that and go, okay, well, what does that mean for people who are eating the fish, right? So does that mean that there are more learning disabilities because of what they're eating? We don't do work with like humans in that way, but it's an ongoing work. They are definitely looking. It's better, but it can be even better. Yeah.
I understand that our Great Lakes system has an enormous percentage of global fresh water. In light of the fact that there are so-called water wars in progress or coming, does your school become involved in any of the policy initiatives?
So a big one that came through that actually will help us as a lot of those things come up is the Great Lakes Compact. And that is an agreement between us and Canada, because the Great Lakes are not just ours. There are lots of Canadian provinces that are along there. It's an agreement with us, and it's monitored by the International Joint Commission. And what the Great Lakes Compact states is that the only people who can draw water from Great Lakes are those that live in the natural boundaries. So in Milwaukee, it's really interesting because you only have to drive like 10 miles from the lake, and you go up a subcontinental divide, and on the other side of that, so in Waukesha, that's water from the Mississippi River system. So they were only that far away, and they have huge amounts of issues with their water, and so they wanted to draw water from Lake Michigan. The compact provides a way for a border community to do an application to request the water to come to their community. Waukesha did that. They put in this application, they requested a whole bunch of stuff, and the people went, no, you can have this much. It worked the way it was supposed to work. And so now they are in the process of building a huge pipeline, and Waukesha is a community of 60,000, 70,000 people who, even though they live so close to Lake Michigan, have terrible problems with drinking water. And they will be building a pipe to pull from Lake Michigan water, that 10 miles, and then they have to return it at or better water quality level they're returning it to a local river called the Root River. And that at or better includes temperature. Because if you put really hot water in or really cold water in, that's going to change the makeup. So it has to be pretty much the same. Now, the next community over, Oconomowoc, can't now say that they are on the border. No, the border is still the natural border. So it can't spread out more. So there is something in place that California wouldn't be able to take water from Lake Michigan. Right now, they also wouldn't want to because it would be very cost prohibitive, even to take from the Mississippi River, because it's all uphill. They have to pump the water uphill to get, against gravity, to get it there. You know, that agreement's only as good as we as a government and as people make sure it stays, right? So that's an important part. The other thing that we probably should be preparing for more is a huge influx of people. So if those people who are living in California and New Mexico and those types of things go, oh, hey, I'm gonna move to the Great Lakes. There's jobs, there's water, there's fewer earthquakes, you know, all of those things, I'm gonna move there. And so that may be what we have to start also preparing for, is a huge influx of people. Go ahead.
Is that natural border different in every state? Because we get water from the Great Lakes, or from Lake Michigan and Palatine, and we're much farther than Townhouse.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's, so it's based, I could show you a different slide, but it's based on the natural watershed. So a watershed, if you think of it as like a shallow bowl, whatever the edge of the bowl is, and it could be a really weird shaped bowl, but whatever the natural edge of that bowl is, that's the watershed. So in northern Wisconsin, Lake Michigan watershed is really big, but it narrows down there because of the geography of the area. So that's what kind of changes it. Go ahead.
With regards to the mussels, I was shocked and amazed at how the zebra mussels made the water perfectly clear for a long time. But I was led to believe that the population spiked and then it fell off because they were eating their environment and just ate it all, so they kind of...
For the zebra mussels, it did.
So
the quagga mussels have completely taken over from them.
But they're not going to do the same thing?
No, there's less likelihood of that right now. There's still enough in there for them to kind of cycle through, so, I mean, eventually maybe.
So where are the zebra mussels now? Gone?
No. You can still find some along the outer edge, you know, right up next to the shoreline in Lake Michigan, but they've really moved into the inland lakes. So all of the inland lakes, if you go into an inland lake and you hurt your feet on the mussel shells, it's zebra mussels.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then another thing is, so is there, what about the other states that border the Great Lakes? Are they pulling their weight? Are they involved? Are they, because it goes all the way around the state of Michigan, whereas Wisconsin is just one side, but it also, we got Minnesota, we got Canada, we've got Ohio, we've got...
So there are definitely other research groups like we have. Part of why we're one of the bigger ones is because of our location of where we are and so close on the water. But there are definitely ones that are around that are working together. There are a couple different groups. One of the ones that we are also involved in is the National Association of Marine Laboratories. So that's ones that all work on like large bodies of water, and marine generally means oceans, but we also have a really big group of people who work on the Great Lakes in that organization. And it's some other really weird acronym. It's NEAMGL, but I don't remember what it all means. But it's the ones who are all located in the Great Lakes who are focused on what's going on. But yeah, there are other groups, and we do work with them as much as we can. You know, whenever research aligns. But yeah, there's definitely groups out there. It's not just us. Not just us in Lake Michigan. We got other people helping out. Yeah?
is the primary goal of your aquaculture teams to bring fish back to Lake Michigan, or is it to raise fish in other freshwater bodies?
Really, right now there isn't it wouldn't be a viable thing to bring fisheries back into open water Lake Michigan. There are just too many variables. It's too easy for it to collapse, either because of the lack of food, because of the quagga mussels, any nutrients, the plastics, any of those things. So what they're really working on is in kind of large scale, like, warehouse tank type things. So kind of more of a removed, but still trying to do it as sustainably as possible. But that way they're not causing other issues in the lake either. So, yeah.
Is something being done to take all those medicines out of our drinking water?
So it is kind of a water treatment facility, each one's a little different. I know we work a lot with our local one to try and get as much of that out as we can. We're definitely not the only ones who do, lots of other systems do, but I can't speak exactly
So right
to
now,
what
the
you're
best treatment is to get people not to discard their
Well,
medicines.
that is a really big one, and even though it seems like a long time ago we were doing that, it's still part of the kind of system of what we're thinking, So yeah, that's a good way to try and help that. But then on the back end, we have to keep figuring out ways to do it, or ways to create those medicines where they're not causing as much issue.
And the Asian carp you've been mentioning.
I was just waiting to see how long until that. Because I do get that question a lot, especially for some reason in this area. So Asian carp are, well, first of all carp are from Asia and Europe. We have no native species to the United States. The ones we're all really worried, you guys will know better than I will. What's the new name? What did we rename them? What was it?
Kopi.
So, yes, they're a lovely fish that you would love to eat. They are the ones that jump and cause lots of trouble. They were released from an area in the southern part of the Mississippi River system. They have gone throughout the Mississippi River system, which is most of the country. We are working very hard to get them to stay out of the Great Lakes. Two of our fisheries experts would say that it is a very low risk that they are going to come into the Great Lakes. And they're really worried it's kind of a red herring. And it's distracting us from some other things that we should maybe be more concerned about. So, why would they think that? The Asian carp that we're talking about are, well, all of them, are river fish. They want fast-moving, shallow water that's kind of warm. That's not Lake Michigan. Lake Michigan is deep and cold and, doesn't move all that much. I mean, it does, but not as much as they want. And because of the quagga mussels, there isn't necessarily a lot of food there for them. So it's kind of, he goes, it's kind of like inviting someone over to your house and be like, ignore that wonderful party with everything you want to eat across the street. Come here, you have no place to sit down, I'm going to play really loud music you don't like, and I'm not going to give you any food. Which place are you going to go to, right? Now, that doesn't mean that they can't get into Lake Michigan. Or that they couldn't get past, all of the different things we're doing to try and stop them. And maybe go up and then cause trouble in, the Milwaukee rivers or any of the other rivers in the system. what they're worried about, because it's happened to them in the past, even relatively recently, what they're really worried about is that we're so focused and spending a lot of time and money on dealing with them that we're maybe ignoring some of these other things that are much higher risk of causing issues. So they wouldn't say that we don't have to worry about them at all, but they're just saying like maybe they're a little lower, they should be lower on the list of things to worry about. So, yeah.
Hi, is there a possibility of like the water reclamation plant can handle like the microplastics being removed or is
Yeah, they, and honestly, most of them do a lot to remove it because, and it's one of the funniest things, when I moved to start this program, or the outreach department, I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to be on top of like all what PCBs are going in and what chemicals and all this really scientific thing. The number one thing I talk about is watersheds. Because if you don't understand that whatever you drop on the ground here is going into some body of water, it's really hard to understand all of that other stuff. So, what goes on where water treatment and water reclamation facilities are helping is any of the stuff that's going here or into our wastewater from our homes or anything like that, they're doing a pretty good job of taking it out. Some of it gets too small where they kind of can't, but there are lots of groups who are working on research that connects to different small microorganisms that maybe want to eat some of that plastic. You know, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of research out there trying to figure out what's going on. But it's a growing problem for sure. Yep. Anything else?
Not just in the water, also in the
Well,
air.
absolutely.
Yeah.